Hello. Not sure what that was about.
Yeah, Streamlabs broke.
Streamlabs said bye. Musical chairs again.
Yep.
All right, where were we?
We're keeping it interesting for the people. You were just about to get into how the panel discussion went.
Right, yeah. So for those who weren't here, or because we're probably going to take down the old 30-second long live from a minute and a half ago, but for those who were not here to see the what happened in the 13 minutes directly preceding us hitting go live on this stream, thanks Streamlabs, I had a weird experience after we did our most recent Sebastian Rogers series. So here's the thing. We did that stream. This was probably our 5th or 6th stream directly related to Sebastian Rogers. Live stream, by the way. It was also the 4th time we've put out a video essay on the Sebastian Rogers disappearance. Aiden, you know what I found out on Tuesday?
What did you find out on Tuesday?
None of the people who talk about Sebastian Rogers were aware that we exist.
What do you mean?
We put our series out in July, and a whole bunch of these people were like getting mad at me for just trying to jump in now. And then the better part was that they like watched our live stream and somehow perceived that that was the documentary we made.
Interesting.
Interesting, right?
I mean, I can forgive them for not necessarily knowing who we are and not being, but considering these are people that, to my understanding, are exclusively talking about the Sebastian Rogers
all they do.
Yeah, and the content made about it. Considering, I think our videos did reasonably well, to say the least.
Pretty damn well.
Yeah, it's surprising that they wouldn't have been made aware of them at some point.
And this isn't even like a bragging issue. I'm just confused.
Yeah, no.
Why do you think I just now got... First of all, I explained in the... And here's what I realized is they didn't even watch the video from last Friday.
Well, the other thing is, did they invite you on the show?
No, not necessarily, but when you use my name and tag me, I'm going to consider that an invite. And they had their StreamYards link in the chat so anybody could join. They run these things like panels where just anyone can join.
If they hadn't seen your stuff, why were they talking about you?
Because they saw the live stream we did a week ago.
Ah.
And then
and that's it.
Yeah, so that kind of... which, again, was weird, because over and over in that live stream, I referenced our documentary, our previous live stream, our documentary, when we started covering this case in July. So anyway, I went on... There were 2 that mentioned us by name. They were Cluminati, who, fair, I did shit on her.
Yeah, you did.
She deserved it.
Elaborate again why.
Well, her titles are usually like, Seth Pee Poo Poo Rogers is such a dum-dum, I'm so offended, blah. And then she's got these like, here's the best part. She's got one of, it's a cartoon with Seth Rogers' face on it, just peeing on something. And I'm like, this is uncouth, to say the least.
Is it like a Calvin and Hobbes reference or something?
I don't know. I think she just doesn't have any idea what the word decorum means. But anyway, so she's like, talking shit to me, and I just popped into her chat, donated $10 and said, here's that attention you ordered. Because her stream was about me wanting attention. But the best part, Aiden, the best part was that and I should have thought to do this tonight, it would have been really funny. The best part was that the title was something along the lines of like Aiden from the Lore Lodge wants some attention or something, which meanwhile, like,
wait.
Our videos do relatively the same number of views no matter what topic we cover.
Hang on.
So me covering Sebastian Rogers, if she had actually paid attention to anything I said, I wasn't going to cover Sebastian Rogers, because what do we typically not do, Aiden?
Oh, we don't usually inject drama into ongoing investigations.
Exactly, the ongoing investigations. I try not to talk about ongoing investigations because there's never the full amount of information. Ever. The police are never forthcoming with everything they have.
But in this case, why did we choose to talk about it
Because
ongoing?
a country music artist asked me to. From Nashville. From like one of the bigger Nashville country music families. So I'm like, all right, when Miley Cyrus's little brother asks you to cover a case, you do it. You do it. So I did. But what I was laughing about is Cluminati and her attempt to insult me First of all, it says it's about attention. It obviously was not. And then the cartoon version of me was me in a maid outfit.
No, it wasn't.
It was, which was funny to me because there's an entire episode of this show in which I'm wearing a maid outfit.
You gotta dig deep for that.
You gotta dig deep for that one. But how she's sitting here calling me a bad researcher. Bro, you couldn't even figure out that I actually wore a maid outfit on stream once.
Yeah. You should have been like, you could have at least pulled the picture of me actually in one.
Exactly. Like, it was there. You could have just done it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of dismissed her and wrote her off. But then I did hop on to Queen Bee's panel because I was not aware at the time that she's apparently like been arrested so many times. Like so many times for assault and things like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting there reading through these arrest records and I'm like, hey, listen, they might not be real, but they were sent to me by a source I trust. Assault, lying to the cops, battery, well, at least threatened battery. And on this panel, they're telling me, this was the funny thing, is on this panel, they're telling me like, well, didn't you know that Bullhorn Betty, what is Bullhorn Betty's relevance to the night Sebastian disappeared? They're like, did you know that Bullhorn Betty said that she started a GoFundMe so that she could buy a gun that she said she was going to use to shoot Terry Bowersox? So I look into it a little bit and no, that's not what happened at all. Weird that a felon is lying about another potential felon.
Wait, so what did actually happen?
I don't want to go into the details on stream right now.
Okay.
We will be going into those details when they become relevant, which will be when we're sitting down with Steve Fisher. He's going to be on the show on the 20th. He is the Proudfoot's PI. We're also going to be sitting down with Tony Mathis and Seth Rogers. Tony is Seth's spokesperson. A lot of people have been like, why does Seth need a spokesperson? I think the exact reason Seth needs a spokesperson is some of the stuff that they pointed to Seth saying on panels where, to be honest, he said some pretty immature and stupid stuff. It was nothing that was incriminating in the sense that like it would have anything to do with this disappearance, but it was stuff where you're like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a weird thing to say. So part of what I'm going to do, we bring Seth and Tony on, and Tony said to me that Seth will answer any and all questions. So I'm excited about that. One thing I was going to do is ask about those things, but I'm also going to be asking Steve Fisher for evidence of the accusations he's made against certain people. Some of the claims that he has made about who was where and when and things like that. You know, who has an alibi, who doesn't. What can he verify? Because one of the things that's been coming since the very beginning of the case, law enforcement, to my knowledge, has never actually said that they confirmed Chris Proudfoot was at work the entire night. But Seth keeps saying he was, or not Seth, Steve keeps saying he was, and Chris keeps saying he was. So things like that. But on this panel with Queen Bee, I hop on. And what was fascinating to me is there were two things. One, the reason I got on is because somebody told me on Twitter that Queen Bee told her audience in that show that I had been speaking to Seth and Tony. I want to be very clear. I did not speak to Seth or Tony until after that panel. So I hopped on the panel to simply say, just want to correct the record here. I have never had a conversation with either of these people. I told Seth, who was in my chat, come on the show, say your piece, just like I said to Chris. Tony eventually called me later that night, and he and I had a conversation. We decided they're going to come on the show. Still working on getting that exact date scheduled, but it will be sometime in the near future. But what I thought was really odd, really interesting about the Queen Bee one, and I know she's probably going to try and dig up something about me now that I've pointed out the felonious history, but I've acknowledged pretty much every effed up thing I've ever done or said, as far as I'm aware. So happy hunting, I guess. But every time I tried to bring the conversation back around to means, motive, opportunity, the three things you look for with a potential suspect, it was always derailed. Well, Bullhorn Betty. Well, Seth said this during a live stream. That was kind of weird. And if I ever pointed out, well, what about this brazen lie Chris Proudfoot told on this panel? It was, well, why does that matter? I'm like, well, because it is very much related to the disappearance. Like it has directly to do with the disappearance. Bullhorn Betty does not. Seth has a concrete alibi. He was at work at a state prison or a county jail, I think. Like, he has a rock solid alibi. One of my favorite things from all of this was people insisting in a lot of these panels and stuff, even back in July when I was covering it, that, the Proudfoots both have alibis. First of all, as to my knowledge, law enforcement has never confirmed Seth's alibi. Or it's not Seth, Chris's alibi. What you looking at?
No, just making sure that the message I got wasn't relevant.
Oh, okay. Yep. So I've never seen law enforcement confirm Chris's alibi. That's one thing I want to ask Steve Fisher about, one thing I want to ask Tony and Seth about. And one of the other things I saw was people insisting, this happened mostly on Reddit, I had a bunch of conversations with a couple of people, where they insisted that Katie had an alibi. Aiden, do you know what Katie's alibi was?
No, what was it?
She was asleep.
Ah, yes. Of course, the very corroborable alibi.
Yeah, literally not an alibi. Like, by definition, I was asleep at home. Can anybody confirm that? No, that's not an alibi. That's you saying you have an alibi. But an alibi typically means that somebody can confirm that you were somewhere else, that you could not have done this. So, just really weird. There were a whole bunch of other lies, and these people seem to live in a fantasy world also, where Sebastian Rogers was never, ever, ever victimized by the Proudfoots. They seem to live in this fantasy world where it was proven in a court that Seth abused Sebastian. They talk about how Seth was kicked off of a military base. All these different things. And I'm sitting there going, like, I've heard all of this stuff before, and I kind of just let him talk. It was like, I hadn't heard that. That's really weird. And sometimes that was actually a genuine response. But, like, for the most part, it was like, well, oh, no, I'll have to look into that, you know? Also, one of them got on, like, a weird thing about me having, like, overpaid for my degree, and it's useless, and I'm not married, so what would I even know about kids, and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, like, most of what I cover is history. And it's allowed me to have a 6-figure career under 30 with a history degree. Like, B-Tim, come on, my guy. I remember who it was. Don't be weird. I don't do drama. You're making me do drama right now, and I don't like it. But I will happily call it out when it comes to my doorstep. So, I don't know. It was just a whole weird thing. But, like, for example, Seth was kicked off of a military base. No. Seth was married to a woman who worked on that military base. As a spouse, he was allowed on the military base. Once he was no longer a spouse, Katie never went to the base staff and said, hey, don't let him on anymore. Now, Aiden, why do you think Seth was going on the military base? It was a naval base. Why do you think he was going there?
Could be a variety of reasons, but...
Well, the reason was that that's where Sebastian's therapy sessions were.
Oh, really?
So he was just attending the therapy sessions that were held on the base with the base psychologist, who, again, to my knowledge, was not a child psychologist.
Interesting. I mean, there are plenty of instances in which, you might not have a dedicated child psychologist available.
Exactly. But in the state of California, I think they were in the San Diego area, there should have been somewhere that they could have found a child psychologist. But instead, they went with the one they could get for free, which was the one they got through the military, who was not trained to handle child sex abuse.
Yeah, I would imagine the VA doesn't really specialize in that.
Yeah. Now, why did Sebastian need this therapy? It was because Chris and Katie left him alone with a 13-year-old boy who assaulted him. And then they didn't press charges. What was their explanation? Oh, well, in the state of California, you can't press charges against a 13-year-old for that. Well, in reality, the state of California did not have a law saying that at all when it happened in, I think, 2017. But in 2018, they did pass a law saying that you can actually prosecute children under 12 for those crimes. It's one of the few crimes in California that you can prosecute a child under the age of 12 for. I think there's like 5. I think they're all that kind of crime.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So just weird claim after weird claim after weird claim that are all, as far as I can tell, either totally made up or complete misrepresentations of the truth. So, that's... Also, they just get weirdly personal about everything. I kept trying to keep this, hey, let's keep this focused on Sebastian. Let's keep this focused on the night he disappeared, right?
generally the goal of anything that's talking about a missing child that people are trying to find.
Because I think I pretty well explained that I'm not being paid to cover this. They all had it in their heads that I'm part of some team, like green team, or that I'm being paid. Or one of them actually said that, and here's what gets me, because I actually went and confirmed this with Brazen. One of them said that Brazen Cyrus, they asked me if I was being paid, and I was like, no, I looked into this because I got a DM from on Instagram from Brazen Cyrus, and he said, hey, there's this weird case, and I recognized the name because I had seen it back in March while I was covering Riley Strain, and I said, yeah, I'll look into it. That was it. That was the extent of the conversation. Now, Brazen and I have, chatted back and forth here and there about this case as well as other things since, but they were under the impression that he had paid me. Which, also, why do you think the Cyrus family would be paying for a YouTuber to point the finger at these two random parents?
Yeah, there are so many hoops in that argument. You couldn't jump through them cleanly.
And why me? If you're going to go pay somebody with a platform. Like we had 500,000 subscribers, but there's people with TV shows.
Yeah.
That get millions of views. So I don't know where this came from.
We're very grateful for where we are, but we're still technically rather niche.
Yeah, we're not the big boys. So then they said that At Night Private Intelligence, who is, I guess, the group working with Dog the Bounty Hunter, and I don't know the exact details of that. I've had a few interactions with these guys on Twitter so far, but I don't know a ton of details about them. Anyway, they said that they charge a $500,000 retainer. Therefore, somebody must have paid them. Therefore, it was Brazen Cyrus. And I'm sitting here like, listen, he's a member of a wealthy family. He makes music. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would just randomly drop $500,000 on some private intelligence company. So I asked him directly, and he said no.
And he really would have no reason to lie about that.
He would have no reason to lie about that. Also, it would be the kind of thing that is verifiable, because there would be a transaction somewhere. Queen Bee, I hate to tell you, but my sources are better. Because in this case, it's the guy you said paid. I don't know. It was a whole weird thing. And then at the very end, as I'm like hopping off, now keep in mind, I think 45 minutes in, I had said I can stay on for like 15, 20 more minutes to answer a couple of more questions, and then I really got to go. I ended up staying another like 30 or 40. And then as I'm getting ready to get off, Cluminati hops in, and then I like didn't even really acknowledge it. I just was getting off, so I got off. And then I keep the stream up just to kind of listen to see what happens afterwards. See, like, did the conversation shift at all? Are they going to address what I said? And instead, all I hear is this random lady, talking about how I'm scared of her. And how, as soon as I get in here, he logs off. So I pop back in to be like, I said I was getting off in 20 minutes, 40 minutes ago. And that's why I got off. I actually overstayed what I intended to. The reason I came here and didn't go on your show, which is clearly the reason you're upset, is that I don't respect you. Queen Bee here at least was, let me talk a bit. I didn't appreciate the amount of lies and slander she allowed to be thrown after I got off the show, which is why I didn't hold back here. I don't get it. I have never been involved in something like this. I guess Summer Wells was also kind of the same way because her parents went on a bunch of podcasts. I'm going to look into that at some point too. But yeah, I was disgusted with most of what I saw regarding this case. And I've gone through and I've watched some other things. One of the things that was this was thrown at me a number of times during that exact panel on Queen Bee's channel. Ready for this? They're telling me Bullhorn Betty called Sebastian defective. I'm like, man, that's pretty insulting. I have an autistic little brother. I don't consider him defective. Who could say such a thing? So I go and I actually watch. I watch the videos. And every single time, what Bullhorn Betty is actually saying is something along the lines of Katie sees her son as defective. In Bullhorn Betty's opinion, Katie thinks Sebastian is defective, and that's why she wanted Faith.
So it's not necessarily a quote, but it's an attribution of a mentality of a different person.
She's saying, I look at Katie, and it appears to me that Katie considers Sebastian defective. So somebody links me to another stream where somebody who goes by the username Nonsense is playing through an episode where you have a number of people actually saying as much. Like, yeah, she's pretty obviously saying here that this is not her opinion. And in fact, in one of the clips, she actually says, I don't know why people are taking this out of context and saying it's my opinion. I'm saying that it's my opinion Katie sees Sebastian as defective. I don't see Sebastian as defective. Like, that's what I get from her. That whole clip plays, and this Nonsense person, her people are like, well, yeah, she just said it again. She said he's defective. And I'm sitting here going, she's explained at length that it's not her opinion Sebastian is defective. In none of the clips did she say, in my opinion, Sebastian is defective. All she said over and over again is, I think Katie sees him as defective. And they're looking at this, they're watching it with the full context. I mean, plain as day, right in your face, going, well, clearly Bullhorn Betty is saying Sebastian's defective. I mean, I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance. I don't know if it's having an IQ that would keep meat safe. Like, I don't know what it is. What?
Sorry, I just wasn't ready for that one.
That was a new one for me.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before.
The one I said last time, I got some pushback on. Thought that one was fair.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I mean, I think cognitive dissonance is a great, like, armchair diagnosis of what that scenario is. But I think at the end of the day, like, this is a prime example of everybody hates current politics with good reason. But the funny bit is that when you go back in history, literally nothing has ever changed.
Yeah, it's always
politics have been like this since Rome. The fact of the matter is that in not just political spheres, in any topic under the sun, people will divide themselves upon opinion and then join a group that they align themselves with the most and defend that opinion to the end. Everybody loves to die on a hill for something. And it just so happens that this scenario is the tragic case of a young boy going missing, where the evidence points pretty strongly in one direction.
In our opinion.
But unfortunately, due to the nature of the world right now and the 24-hour news cycle and the fact that this got blown up for a bit in the past, and it's a very emotionally charged case based on who the victim is, it developed a big following, and then that following became fractured, that following became tribal, or those fractured followings became tribal, and now it's just...
it's total tribalism.
Yeah, it's crazy, but terrifying. It makes a lot of sense. It's unfortunate, but...
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I saw some not so great remarks from people on both sides of this topic, because, again, it's gotten to a point where it's drama. It is, a tribal issue. It's like the closest thing I can compare a lot of the conversations I saw this with to is the Eagles Cowboys rivalry. Like, if you go on a sports page, it does not matter who's doing better that year. It doesn't matter what the stats are. You're either an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan, and you refuse to acknowledge any success the other team might have. It's the same kind of mentality here. Now, granted, I mean, with Eagles Cowboys, there's a very obvious better team right now. So, just saying. But taking it back to the Sebastian Rogers thing, it's become totally tribal. It's all about my side versus your side. And that's sad. That is very frustrating. Because again, this is a missing child. And I think if you laid it out for people and you said, all right, here's the facts of the case. We have a 15-year-old boy with autism who goes missing in the middle of the night at the end of February. We know he hates being cold. We know he hates being barefoot. He did not take any of his shoes, and it was cold. What do we have here? We have that his stepfather has a history of courts telling him, you need high conflict classes. You need parenting classes if you want to see your daughter. We have a mother who has a history of telling courts that her ex was abusive without the courts finding that to be in any way the case. We also have a ongoing custody case for a little girl to go to live with that family. Already, I think just about anybody would see that there are some red flags. Let's add in the fact that the stepfather goes on interview shows and talks about how there was some kind of incident with Sebastian, with his stepson, that some family members wanted him to go to the police about. And then he disappears. Just based off of that little bit of information alone, I think a lot of people would go, yeah, it sounds like the stepdad has motive.
Yeah, based on the facts alone, yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it can be denied that Chris Proudfoot has a motive here.
I think at the end of the day, the real question is not who is the most likely suspect. It's if you do not consider that person the most likely suspect, what are your reasons?
Yeah.
And how are you not convinced of it? Tell us why. And then in the many instances that you have uncovered being on these shows and looking into the research of who is in support of Chris Proudfoot, where are these rose-colored glasses coming from? What is the reasoning?
That's got to be the weirdest part for me. I have yet to see a single instance where this guy looked sympathetic.
Yeah. And that's why it's so confusing.
He never comes across as somebody I'd want to root for. So there's not even an emotional thing there. And then you look at the stuff he says, and I mean, he makes fun of the fact that Sebastian likes to dance. He clearly doesn't have a good grasp on how autism works. He talks about hitting the kid with a belt multiple times, having CPS called multiple times. Where in the process did this guy gain a fan base? Is this like with serial killers, how they have their people that write to them who fall in love with them?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, it may be a similar instance in which he and Katie became a thing.
Yeah, I don't get it. Now there's a whole bunch of people talking about, oh, well, Nina cheated on him and there had to be a paternity test. And I've asked for evidence of that over and over and over again, and nobody's been able to produce it. I'm told it happened. If it's so obvious, if it's so well known in this case, where is the evidence? Where's the video of her saying she did it? Where is the receipts? Where are the text messages? Also, there were a lot of people who were talking about, me just saying things as if they were fact. For example, Nina Gomez, the claims she made when in our documentary, what I actually say is she made all of these claims. A lot of these would be corroborable. The police should do that. That's all I said.
Yep.
I never said all of this actually happened. I went as far as to say, even in the update video from last Friday, not this past Friday, the last one, I even said the things she says should be seen as a little bit suspect considering the nature of her relationship with Chris. And they just breeze past all the context and ignore it. I don't get it. But I mean, you see kind of the same thing with David Paulides, with a lot of the cases we talked about on Friday. And I think that there's kind of this, I'm sure it happens with non-child related cases, but a lot with child related cases because they just get so much attention. People don't want to believe certain possibilities. Those possibilities are typically parents hurting their children, or children just wandering off. There's got to be something else that happened. Now, in Sebastian's case, the evidence suggests he didn't wander off. Looking at the cases we covered on Friday, though, most of those did seem like a child just wandering off. And you know what I think is really interesting about it?
What's that?
These are cases going back to 1882. In every single one, the dad is out there searching for days, weeks, sometimes, over and over and over again. There are even a couple of cases where everybody was really suspicious of the parents after a little while. The dad was still out searching. Because when kids wander off, and I get it, Sebastian's 15, but when kids wander off, there's usually a certain type of response. And in a lot of the stories we looked at on Friday from Pennsylvania, that response ended up finding the child very quickly. It was, within hours, the parents are out there combing every area. The neighbors are out there looking all over the place, and they end up finding the kid like a mile and a half away. And this is where I get frustrated with David Politis, is a 2-year-old being found a mile and a half away from where they were last seen 24 hours later is simply not weird. No. Now, in the city, it would be weird. Who didn't notice this toddler walking around alone for a day? That's weird. That's when you start to think kidnapping. We're talking about rural Pennsylvania. We're talking about Amish country in some cases here, where there's big family farms that are a mile and a half across. I mean, you could... A child could find a creek and follow it for a mile.
Yeah.
With no problem.
A 2-year-old could be hidden by a single fern.
Exactly. And you just wouldn't find it. And so, you know, with On Friday, obviously, we covered all these cases that are like, well, these aren't weird. It was 13 out of 39, though. Leaves 2/3 of the cases that were kind of weird. Another funny thing is that I even said as much in the video, and you get people who are just, why do you hate David Politis? I'm like, I even told you that the majority of the cases in this segment do seem a little weird. Now, do they seem like they were Bigfoot? Absolutely not. No. Potentially criminal? Yeah. In one case, the police, this was actually a 22-year-old, wasn't a child. The police, she disappears. Her father is a reverend. He's going to visit a sick parishioner.
Do you remember where in PA this was?
Oh, this is Philadelphia. This was like in Fox Chase. I don't know why it's even included.
Got it. Yeah, so it's this one. Got it.
Fox Chase is not rural. And Fox Chase was not rural 90 years ago either. So okay, Dave. But this girl, and here's the cases I wish people would look into and cover. This girl, she tells her dad she's going to go for a walk. Based on the way it's described, she had a history of probably panic disorder, which I know what that's like. But she definitely had some history of this. And David doesn't mention that part at all, by the way. Of course not. So she goes for a walk, says she'll be back in half an hour. Never comes back. She's found the next day in a park, nude, dead. Signs of a struggle. Scratches from thorn bushes, things like that. The police questioned a few people who were at the park that day. One woman said that she had heard a girl screaming in the park. And do you recall what the coroner determined was the cause of death?
I do not. What was it?
Exposure. As a result of, and is the camera on me?
Yes.
Moon madness.
Yeah, I forgot about this one.
Moon madness.
This was, 90 years ago, but it was only 90 years ago.
It was only 90 years ago. And he goes on at length in the newspapers about, how, people have known for a long time that the rays of the moon cause women to behave strangely. I'm like, there were multiple people in the park that day who should have been considered suspects, including 2 17-year-old boys who both saw her enter the park and miraculously found her the next day. Just happened to know where she was. I'm not saying they did it, but how as an officer do you not go,
Yeah.
I get it. Police forces were a relatively new thing at the time. Metropolitan police departments came about in, the 1880s, I think?
Something like that. Yeah.
So, you don't have, it's like 50 years. Like, they don't have all the kinds of things we have today. They don't have for what?
I was wondering if I'm going to say this. Kat just said, yes, I do, in fact, behave strangely every 28 days.
Yeah. I think maybe they might have been syncing it up to the wrong cycle.
Yeah. No, wait, hang on. 90 years ago, do you think it's possible a doctor didn't realize that was a thing?
No. They knew about menstrual cycles in the Middle Ages. They knew about menstrual cycles in the biblical times.
Right, but did they know about what is it, PMDD, and what's the other one?
They probably, I would think in the 1930s, they must have known.
They still had arsenic stuff that you could, drink.
That's true. You make a very valid point there. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, there's another one that comes up. I think this was like the 70s or 80s. Girl, this is rural Pennsylvania. I think this was up in northwestern PA, which for those who have not been to Pennsylvania, first of all,
you're missing out.
Yes, but being in one part of Pennsylvania does not give you the remotest idea of what the rest of Pennsylvania is like.
Oh, being in one part of Pennsylvania doesn't give you an idea of what 20 miles away from you is like.
Yeah, if we drive 20 miles west of where we currently are, we are in the 1700s.
Yep.
But also the 2020s. It's a weird...
No, wait.
Amish country is a weird place.
No. Can I give the 20-mile spread? So if you go 20 miles west of here, you're in Amish country. If you go 20 miles south of here, you're in England. If you go 20 miles north of here, somehow you are in Georgia. And if you go 20 miles east of here, you are in a metropolitan city.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And when I say Georgia, I don't mean the state. I mean the mentality of Georgia.
Yeah.
20 miles north of here somehow. But anyway, just to clarify.
And then weirdly enough, you go 20 miles north of that, you are once again in a somewhat metropolitan area.
Yes, and then it's Georgia again.
Yeah. Also, just the Appalachians just kind of go zoop. Like they just form a crescent right in the middle of the state.
Yep.
It's a weird place.
Everybody judges you based off of which gas station you get your sandwiches from.
Yeah. By the way, if your answer is Sheetz, you are dead to me. I'm kidding. I did not hate Sheetz as a drunk food place in college.
Yeah.
I went to college in central Pennsylvania at Penn State, and it was out of Wawa territory.
What's the third one that I'd never heard of until like a week ago?
Royal Farms?
No.
Turkey Hill?
No. I know that one. Yeah, I don't know.
No idea. But yeah, so there's this one case up in, I think it was northwestern Pennsylvania. She's a 15-year-old girl. She disappears, and here's what happens. Ready for this? She's found, I forget if it was like hours later or the next day off the top of my head, but it was one of the two. She disappears. Her mother hears her scream. And then they find her either later that day or the next day. And according to police, when they found her, she said that she had just been feeling a little bit high-strung and anxious and needed to go for a walk. According to her mother, she said that a big man with a knife chased her.
Interesting.
I just feel like I trust one of those accounts more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand, not approve of, but understand the scenario in which she was potentially with an abusive partner that was doing that, and she felt obliged to protect his standing.
But the mom didn't seem to think that she was in a relationship of any kind.
How old was she?
15.
What year was this?
I want to say it was the 70s.
I will say that tracks.
It's possible. But also, a big man with a knife chased me to her mom.
That's fair.
That's what she told her mom. The mom didn't seem to understand why the police weren't taking that seriously. I look at it and I go, yeah, well, I mean, if a police officer doesn't want to investigate something, one way they could do it is by accusing the person of being mentally ill.
He should have had a consult with the previous doctor because big men chasing with knives is a key indicator of mood madness. So.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, everybody knows moon madness makes you hallucinate. But there were also cases that, you know, there was, what was the guy's name? Harold Motz, I think.
I remember the name.
Henry Motz or Harold Motz or something like
Harold,
that. Yeah. He was 12. He goes off looking for his dog. It is a lost dog.
Mm-hmm.
Politis reports that he was with like his brother and his uncle. The papers say it was his dad. They split up to go look in two different spots. He disappears for a few days, walks out of the woods, I think 3 days later. Fine, slight fever, you know, not doing great, but alive. And the first thing he says to his rescuers is, "Boy, am I glad to see you."
That's just an all-time comment.
Yeah. He then proceeds to have no trouble explaining that he was just lost.
Yep.
And couldn't find his way back to the road. And eventually he did. And that was it. Nothing weird. Doesn't talk about a big hairy man, like, keeping him safe, doesn't talk about bears or being chased through the woods or anything. I do think my favorite one out of all of them, and I think I actually did end up moving this into the potentially weird column, that or I didn't properly explain the whole situation in the video on Friday. Or maybe I did. There were 39 cases. I don't totally remember all of them off the top of my head right now. Point is, Paulides is like, all the parents thought she had been carried off by a bear, but the papers don't say why they thought she was carried off by a bear, which is the thing he does when he wants you to think it was Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
All the papers mention that there was a bear in the area that had been attacking sheep.
Which is a pretty good indicator as why they might have thought that she was carried off by a bear.
Exactly. Nothing weird there.
Unfortunate, not weird.
Yeah, like, bro, what are you doing?
I will say, can we clarify one more time for the people in the back as to why it annoys you that Paulides does these things, whether intentionally or not, specifically in relation to leaving the door open for Bigfoot in stories that pretty well seem like it wasn't.
I'm curious what you think I'm going to say.
Just in the sense of like why you think it's important to highlight the accuracy and lack thereof of some of these cases.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just you're creating a mystery where there isn't one. And also it's disrespectful to the people involved.
Right. There we go. That's
what you were thinking.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's disrespectful to the people involved. It convinces a lot of people out there that there are these weird things happening that aren't. And it kind of devalues the stuff that actually is weird. Like, that's... a lot of people who watch our videos now probably don't realize it, but when the channel started, I thought Paulides was onto something. I was trying to prove him right. I only got here because I realized, oh, he's making things up. Which is, it's frustrating. Somebody was like, why would you kick a man when he's down? Like, what do you mean when he's down? He's making money off of this. He's allowed to make money off of this, but I'm not allowed to make money off this? I'm not allowed to criticize? If he wants to criticize me, he's welcome to do so. I'm not going to complain. And I've wanted to get him on the show. I've wanted to ask him point blank, like, what is going on here? Like, are these cases where you just had bad information and you didn't realize it? What's the deal? I think the fact that on North American Bigfoot Search, the website for that, which is his Bigfoot organization, the fact that Missing 411 is listed.
Yeah.
Put two and two together, man. Yeah, but I just... That said, there are some weird ones. The Moon Madness one is weird because it's probably criminal. The Big Man with a Knife one is weird because it's probably criminal. And then there's some even weirder ones, like this guy who is a clinical psychologist from Trenton who goes and attends a conference in Westchester, which David Paulides very incorrectly identifies as being near the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, which is... way north.
Yeah, that's like 3 hours minimum north.
Probably 4.
Yeah.
That's like Lycoming County. No, it's even further north than Lycoming. It's Gaines. It's like Pine Grove. It's almost New York.
Yeah.
Like, it's closer to Ohio than Pennsylvania, or than Westchester. Like, also, several of the cases he includes are from Maryland and New York. One's from Ohio, and it's actually within like 5 miles of the border. I'll give him that one. But one of the New York ones is further away from Pennsylvania than Staten Island is from New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and isn't there also one that one of the Maryland ones, because there's 2 Maryland ones?
One's closer to D.C.
Yeah, it's like way south of Baltimore.
Yeah, it's like at the bottom part of Maryland. Some of these are northern tier Pennsylvania, some are southern tier New York. But this one with the clinical psychologist I'm actually really interested in because, first of all, if I'm not mistaken here, I found exactly 2 articles about it.
Interesting.
It is, and when I say that, I mean, if you look up, I think his name was Michael Jose Malinowski. If you look that up, you're going to find a whole bunch of articles on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are all Strange Outdoors, the Charlie Project, Missing 411, da-da-da-da-da. And they all repeat the same information. And they all link to the website for the Star Gazette, I want to say, up in New York. As far as actual news articles go, I found 2. There were more articles about kids who disappeared in 1890.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's 2 articles. One is in the Philadelphia Inquirer. One is in, like, the Star Gazette. Not a ton of information. But from what I can tell, guy goes on this trip. He then, I guess, had a habit of going up to that area of Pennsylvania for vacations and to clear his head. He had been in a divorce recently, which I would consider a factor. His car is found. His day pack is found, opened. His LL Bean boots, their beanie boots, those are found. He's not. It's weird. And you're like, is this he went hiking and something weird happened weird? Or is this like criminal weird? Is this he decided to end his own life weird? His roommate seemed very caught off guard by the whole thing. His family did too, but his family also would only give interviews to one specific outlet. And then it just kind of disappears. And I think this case was in like the 80s or 90s. It's recent. And it just disappears. He's an older guy, to be fair. He's in his 30s. Most of the children's cases we've looked at so far have just really been child wanders off is found. There's a few, though. I think Bachman is one of them. It's a 19-month-old who just disappears. And the entire community kind of turned on the family. Yeah. So we're going to be looking into that one. Like, what happened here? But what I find very interesting about it is just in general, when you look at the cases, even when there's very little information, even when it's extremely localized, child goes missing is big news. Child goes missing means everyone in the area is out there looking. And then I think about some of the cases we've covered recently, like JonBenet Ramsey, like Sebastian Rogers. Those parents didn't act right. They did not do what they were supposed to do. And not even to the extent where, like...
At least the parents that the child was with at the time that they were lost.
Yeah, I mean... Granted, like, if you look at the Ramsey case, obviously it wasn't a missing child. But rather than doing everything they could to cooperate with the police, the Ramseys hired a bunch of private investigators and attorneys to conduct the investigation and basically keep the police out of it. And if you look at the Proudfoots, they don't actually really look for the kid. They put up some flyers. Somebody was like, well, they paid for a billboard. Like, it's $17 a day. What's your point? That is not really enough. That is not being on the ground looking. And then they hire private investigator who it seems like, I mean, I'm going to ask Steve a lot of questions when he's on the show, but it doesn't seem to me like he's looking for the solution. It seems like he's looking for the solution that does not incriminate the Proudfoots. That's the vibe I'm getting. Which I get it. You're not going to look at the people who hired you because that's where your money's coming from. But at a certain point, you gotta acknowledge that there's a little too much evidence.
Also, at a certain point, as a private investigator, you would think, taking an oath to the law and, all those lines, like whatever the standards are for private investigators by comparison to law enforcement, you would think you might get to a certain point where once all of that evidence does start to stack up, that you would have a moral obligation to, if you start to believe that, maybe my clients are responsible, that you go to the authorities with that information for, the sake of the missing child.
Yeah, which I'm not saying Steve is doing that. I'm not saying he's withholding anything. I'm just saying I'm genuinely curious as to why he doesn't think that it's the Proudfoots at this point.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
there's either good reasons or there is some weird reason for rose-colored glasses.
Why have you not presented them?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm offering him the platform. If he's got good reasons to not look at the Proudfoots, I want him to lay them out for us.
That's the thing, because if it is really a waste of time, then people should stop wasting their time and refocus where it's necessary.
Exactly. But I don't know. I don't like the way that case is being handled by particularly, I guess, the media, but it's not even really the media. It's mostly YouTubers. Occasionally, this stuff does show up on like court TV and local news.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't really been nationwide news.
Not since it first happened, no.
It wasn't even nationwide news then because Riley Strain.
Yeah, it got totally overshot.
Yeah, I mean, here's the wild thing is if Riley Strain doesn't go missing, Sebastian might be, like, national news.
And I really think the only reason why Riley Strain took over is because there was actual footage of him the night he went missing. So...
And then I love how the Nashville Police Department proceeded to go, oh, no, he just fell in the river. Doesn't matter that his debit card was found, you know, like half a mile upstream of where we're saying he went into the water. Doesn't matter that he had not decomposed at all after 2 weeks. What do you mean you want to see the footage? The last footage you can't see the last footage we have of him. I mean, this entire area has signs that say that it's monitored by the city justice system 24/7, but why would you want to see that footage? That somebody was like, oh, well, you know, they don't want to give away which angles the cameras are pointed at. I'm like, add another camera.
Yeah. Also, you could just go and look if you wanted to know what the camera angles were.
So, also, like, having one camera angle, or maybe two, doesn't tell you the sum total of what they can actually see. In fact, let's be realistic, it's not even a bad idea to be like, all right, let's put out the camera angles we have that show him, and if anybody decides, oh, wait, I can commit a crime in the spots that they don't have cameras, just have cameras there. And then you'll catch criminals.
Also, what crimes are you going to commit?
Out right behind the county jail?
Yeah, exactly. When that's literally all it is county jail, road, river.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I see in that case. Like, a few blocks before Riley disappears, he talks to a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he disappears. Might it be a little embarrassing if you're the Nashville Police Department to have to own up to the fact that a tourist passed by one of your officers just moments before disappearing? That might look bad. And for a city that depends on tourism as much as Nashville does, you sweep that under the rug. Thankfully, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been another Riley Strain.
Not that has come to the media consciousness to the level that he did.
So, you know, maybe this was a one-off kind of thing. Maybe it was a victim of opportunity. Or maybe somebody who was doing some stuff noticed the heat and decided to lay low. But I look at that, I've seen no good reason to think that Riley Strain was an accident. I mean, the area he's in, it's got fences. Like, you'd have to deliberately try and climb down there.
The only reason I would think that he would do that is if he had to relieve himself. But
you know, why would you climb down 40 feet?
To get away from, considering he did just see that there was a cop up there. He didn't want to get a public urination charge. I know plenty of people that do that.
But that still doesn't explain the debit card.
No, not at all. No,
or the lack of decomposition.
Yeah.
It
reminds me of another really strange and blatantly misinvestigated case.
I think Tommy Booth is probably the one I'm the most angry about out of everything we've ever looked at. Partially because it's local. And partially just because how?
Do you think we're going to redo that one soon? Because we still have the footage of being on site and with Barb.
Yeah, I definitely do want to touch on it again. It's just a matter of when. Because I'm going to need time to read through that whole case file again and refamiliarize myself. But yeah, down the line, also I want to see how this new structure with the channel goes.
Yeah.
Of like, because like we did Ramsey, and then we did Missing 411. Or no, sorry, we did Missing 411, then Ramsey. This week I'm doing Ancient Aliens. The Ancient Aliens conspiracy.
Are you really? I didn't even hear this yet.
Oh, I was gonna do Nephilim, and then I was like, that's too niche.
Really?
I figured I could talk about that and Ancient Aliens at the same time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's
So I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna look into Sitchin, the Sitchin stuff.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And he's the guy who, the Anunnaki were the Nephilim and the gods and blah 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 blah. And then Michael Heiser was like, that's not what the texts say. That's not what. What are you talking about? He's got a website that is literally sitchiniswrong.com.
That's an amazing title.
Mm-hmm. He's passed away, so just to make sure it stays up, I put it into the archive.
Oh, nice.
But what time is it?
It's 8:08, so yeah, I was going to let you wrap that up and then head to Super
Let's
Chat.
head to Supers.
All right. Well, yeah, so why don't you make some, while I comb through, why don't you make some final comments about, what essentially you're hoping will come from the rest of the missing 4-in-1 cluster that we're looking at now.
Oh, yeah. So, I'll say off the bat, I'm very skeptical about the idea that any of these cases are going to look paranormal. But I do have the feeling a number of them are going to look weird. Probably cases where the police could have done a lot more. Mood Madness being chief among them. And there are a few also that I'm just like, what happened here? One really interesting one that I'm looking forward to getting into was from the 1940s, where a woman, I want to say her daughter went missing, and she had recently been estranged from her husband because he claimed that the child was not his. And then she and one of the men who worked on her farm ended up getting brought in for questioning, and it was never like officially determined that she had done something, but there were a lot of reasons to think that she did. So I'm very interested to go through that one. There's another thing that just came up that I can't remember what I was going to say, but
yeah, it'll come to you
one day.
The first relevant one we got was from Trains and Stuff for $12.34. Thank you. And this is a little bit of a throwback, but yet still relevant in terms of what this channel was about initially. Do you think that Pennsylvania's Squonk could be behind the missing children? They hear something crying, then when they go to chase after it, it disappears in a puddle of tears, and the kids get lost.
I cannot believe one of you managed to work the Squonk into Missing 4-on-1, and I gotta be honest, I'm impressed.
Well done.
That is actually impressive. No, but wow. That deserves a clap.
Hats off indeed. This one is not relevant at all, but it is important. Chimp with a hand grenade, amazing username, says, still desperately waiting for the calendar, Mattis.
I know. I'm working on it. I gotta get skinny. I gotta get sexy. Do you want a calendar of me after the holiday season?
I think everybody, honestly, would probably prefer that.
Oh, God.
I will say, though, we have officially acquired the means of production of the calendars, so it really is just now down to us actually taking
that we've
the pictures.
seized them?
We have seized the means of calendar production.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Also, you can learn about seizing the means of production in the sense that it led to the creation of 50 Shades of Grey on History Unhinged, which comes out, the first episode drops on February 1st over on the channel History Unhinged. Tomorrow, the first clip drops on that channel. So
how frequently are we dropping the clips?
The clips will be, I'm not entirely sure yet, probably once every couple of days. Depending on how many we end up having.
We will have enough to do one a day if you wanted.
I don't want to give away the whole thing at once.
That's true.
Yeah, so probably every other day. Yeah.
Okay.
And then that will lead up to a February 1st premiere. I think probably around 3 p.m. We want to make sure that we're not conflicting with the Unsubscribed podcast for their upload time. So
we want to give ourselves the opportunity to be a fun little back-to-back without cannibalizing their views.
Exactly.
Warlock Lightning for $20 says we had some trouble for a moment, but the milk flows again from the lactose lodge.
Milk flows.
And then somebody's Ella's asking when we're gonna get a maid outfit range day, which might actually be a phenomenal Patreon exclusive, which is why I wanted to acknowledge
Patreon
that.
exclusive. Why is it Patreon exclusive? Because ammo is expensive, guys.
It is incredibly so.
My girlfriend's dad gave me a couple of boxes of 357 for Christmas.
Nice.
I was like, you know what? That's a great gift.
That is a great gift. The next one from Girl Mom 2 for $4.99 says, I personally think you helped get the reward from the FBI. Your videos were very insightful and connected a lot of dots that are relevant in this case.
Thank you. I would be very proud if that was the case. I don't know if the FBI would ever say so, but if we were able to move the needle, then that's all I wanted to do.
That's why we do it. Cool Space Marine for $5 says, IQ low enough to keep meat safe is such a brutal insult that I have to save it.
Thank you. Come here, bud. Come on. There's your good boy.
And then, Ozzy Walker for $5.55. Love the specificity there, saying, tribalism, it's that group is not us, and that terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's just a prime example of a lot of things that happen online. It's unfortunate, but it is, very present and very annoying. Abigail Stewart thanking us for all the work that we do, and she appreciates it so much.
Was that a free membership message?
Member for 4 months.
Channel members get a free super chat once a month.
And thank you to people like Asmodeus, who gave 5 gifts of memberships tonight. Big wins right there. James for $8.60 is saying, I think you may just need to avoid talking to true crime YouTubers for your own sanity, big guy. Also, great season for Penn State, but go Irish.
As long as you beat Ohio State, go Irish. That is, if you lose to Ohio State, the entire state of Indiana is dead to me. But yeah, I agree. I will not be going on further panels unless it's with somebody that I respect.
Fair. JMO for $20 is asking if we're going to be at this year's Blobfest again.
Planning to be.
Cool. Do we know what date that is?
I don't think it's been announced yet. It's always around the same time, though. Mid-July, right?
Yeah. We'll look into that. We're going to have to get permits and stuff again. But, I mean, considering we got all the stuff for it last year.
We might as well do it again.
Yeah.
The only reason we wouldn't is if we're already on the road for Donner Party.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Donner Party. Well, yeah, we figured out when is Donner Party June?
Well, I think it makes the most sense to do it right before the Montana trip.
Yeah, the only downside, we're going to have to sit down and figure out the scheduling for this because that would be a month on the road. And if we don't have an editor by that point, I'm going to be cooked.
Well, we're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah. We'll get there, though.
It'll either be like late May, early June, or it'll be July. So It really depends on what we can get schmoving.
Yeah, that's fair. Patrick McNeely's giving us a reference or recommendation for a story saying, for children going missing, there's a story from Newton, New Jersey about 3 siblings going missing after entering a cave in 1909. It is now their grave.
I'm just going to look that up really quick.
Newton,
New Jersey, you said?
Yes, Newton, New Jersey.
All right. Newton, New Jersey. Missing boys?
Yeah, in a cave in 1909. Also, following that one up, Tyler Dalrymple.
Ghost Children of the Cave Grave.
That's a good title.
That is a good. That's the title we'd probably use.
Yep. But real quick, before we get too deep into that, Tyler Dalrymple for $7.62, nice choice, is asking, assuming it was the Proud Feet, whether alive or otherwise, how do you think they moved him? Where could they have put him so quickly and not be found?
So that's part of the complicated issue here is figuring that part out. There are a number of possibilities there. I think that one thing I'm pretty sure of is that he did not leave that house on foot, or if he did, that he was wearing shoes. There are a number of possibilities there. I don't know where all of the cameras in the neighborhood are. I don't know if it's possible there will be a route that he could have taken, that somebody could have taken with him, where they would not have been seen by cameras. I mean, one possibility is somebody drove a car up with the lights off, and someone carried him out of the house, put him in a car, drove him off. At that point, it doesn't really... since nobody knew he was missing for at least 6 hours after he supposedly was last seen. Also, one thing that strikes me as odd, that I don't know how it just occurred to me now, Katie said in an interview that late that night she heard a thump from Sebastian's room, like, somebody had fallen, and that she didn't go check on him. And the story changed a few times. At one point, it was like, she heard it and she yelled and asked if he was okay. At one point, she asked if he was okay and he responded. At one point, she asked if he was okay and he didn't respond. At one point, she didn't yell. She never went to go check on him, though. He has fluid on his brain. Like, hitting his head could be a problem.
You would think that a caring and concerned mother would go check on the child, especially someone who is autistic.
You would think.
Speaking of that, Her Royal Pain for $5 says it's a good anecdotal story. When my brother was 5 and he is autistic and I was 7, he got lost in a city fair for about an hour to find him a mile away in a bounce house with a cop watching him. So, young children traveling large distances is not uncommon.
Everyone's like, how did this toddler travel so far? Have you met a toddler? They have unlimited energy and no sense of direction.
When I was a toddler, when we would go down to the beach, if my parents didn't watch me like hawks, I would disappear. There was one time where it took them 3 hours to find me. I was 2 miles down the beach, sitting on some random person's towel just mid-conversation. It's just what kids do.
Mm-hmm. They just wander.
Yeah. Local legends Bert Moran is saying, invite me to Pennsylvania and I will go for sure.
Well, I mean, we do plan on doing a similar thing to what we did with the Great Smokies. So if you have any interest in coming out with us, we would love the company. I'll let you know when that is.
Yeah, that'd be great. Also, in terms of our conversation about different places where people get their food from in Pennsylvania, Patrick McNeely for $2 said, I get my breakfast at Quick Check. Am I dead to you?
At what?
I don't know. Quick Check with Q-U-I-C-K, normal quick, and then check is C-H-E-K.
I have never heard of that.
Neither have I.
No. Listen, if you like something other than, if you have access to Wawa and you like something else over Wawa, you're not dead to me, you're just more of like a second-class citizen. If you don't have access to Wawa, it's different, though. It's kind of how, like, there's the biblical concept in Christianity that if you haven't been exposed to the word of God, well, obviously you can't go to hell because that would be unfair.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but with Wawa.
I think that's fitting.
Yeah.
Gomb looks like he is putting to rest the W word and the double B words.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he said it's a needed thing. It's time to move on.
It's time to move on.
We've gone on to greener pastures as a collective. So appreciate it, Gomb. Glad to see you joining the bandwagon. What else? Oh, Rudders. Trains and Stuff was saying within our area you have Wawa Rudders. That was it. I'd never heard of it until like a week ago.
I liked Rudders. They have those like little tornado things that you get at like 7-Eleven. It's just like the tortilla wrapped with meat and cheese. Got some good stuff there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, Gon followed it up with another super chat. It is a massive psych.
Oh no.
It is our legacy.
No. How could you do this to us?
Rabbit Space is giving us 1934 for the PTSD fund.
Thank you. That is a very specific number.
It is. I really enjoy it. Also, I believe earlier on, Elena gave us some as well.
For the PTSD fund?
Yes.
Good.
And there was another
I'm gonna need it
from the last one that I don't think we have available here, but
probably
we'll
not,
go back on it. Yep. Nextus for $10 is saying, just want to say thank you for advocating for the truth in a day and age where people only believe what they want to believe and regardless of truth. I think I can say for both of us, and I'm sure you're more than happy to chime in, is that it's really annoying just seeing it everywhere. It's not hard to not do it.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to just be honest about this stuff, or at least at the very least, try and focus on things worth focusing on. That like, I think it's what makes us unique is that we do that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't hate too much on people that start making content and they take some of this stuff at face value, because I used to do the same.
Yeah.
You know,
it's more the people who choose not to dig deeper.
Yeah, it's when they choose not to do the work. That's when it becomes a little bit of an issue. And I will say it also frustrates me when you have larger content creators, people who already have a platform, who start to go and do this, like repeat the same incorrect stories, because it's a good way to get content. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of money. It gets a lot of views. I could make 2 videos, 3 videos a week if I just uncritically did this. But that's not right. You shouldn't do that.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, I don't necessarily think that David Paulides is always deliberately going out of his way to leave out information. I think most likely the guy looks into a case until he sees what he wants to see and then stops. Because that's really the only way I can... That's really the only way I can rationalize what I'm seeing.
Yeah, there's clearly not a lot of academic vigor and there is challenging there. The next one's from Miss Maury for $5 saying, as a PA resident who has spent time in Bucksmont counties and Lancaster, the cops dismissing women as anxiety, panicked, or madness tracks, I've got stories.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I'm sorry you've had to deal with that, but it is unsurprising.
Or I should take down the version of this that did not actually...
Smart. Ozzy Walker is saying that it seems that people have been attending Mr. Tyree's philosophy class instead of Dr. Jones's class.
Mr. Tyree?
Yeah, Tyree''S. If it is a reference or joke, it has gone over me.
Yes.
But in the meantime, while you Google that to figure out how dumb we are, Greg2084 for $10 is saying, hey, Mood madness means wild animals fold clothes at cliff edges and people do raccoon stuff. You know,
I don't think that's what was going on in Philadelphia in 1932.
No, but you know, all those cases where there's randomly clothes at the top of cliffs.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, because, you know, those make total sense. Yeah, it wasn't there the one, it was the one girl who, like, her clothes were at the top and they were like,
I know
this was clearly...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, God. That one actually made me sick.
Oh, yeah, that was
remember her name. Minnie Hawn.
Yep, that was it.
I mean, hey, let's just gather together a bunch of people in secret and then decide what happened. Like, I get it. It was like the 1930s. They probably weren't going to find who did it. But at the same time, like...
I think it might have been 54.
Was it the 50s?
I think so, yeah. Because I feel like I remember... Right. I think I remember you saying, it was like, yeah, this was 54. It kind of makes sense for this area. But at the same time, like, come on.
But, I mean, you'd think... I think what happened is there was this guy who was a drifter who a bunch of people identified as being in the area at the time. And I think what they did was probably go, all right, well, chances are it was that guy. Let's not freak everyone out by saying what this really was. And hopefully it will stop when he moves on. So I think that's probably what the mindset was.
Yeah.
At the same time, if that wasn't the case, not telling people what really happened here just opens up more danger.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, unfortunate. T. Randall Photo for $10 says, as a huge fan of y'all's work and a photographer of 6 years, I'm mailing y'all 2 photograph prints that scream Lore Lodge to me.
Thank you.
Got the address from Gomb in the Discord. Hope y'all like them. 8x12x2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we will have to find a place to hang them.
Also, thank you, Gomb, for giving him the proper place to send it.
Yeah. Also, was it Gomb that sent us the medallion?
I believe so, yeah.
It has not arrived. I'm not saying that to be like, trying to trick you into sending yet another one. I just don't know where you're sending them, but they are not coming.
Well, did GOM send us the 3D prints as well?
No, that was somebody else.
Okay.
Also, whoever invited us to your wedding, we have received the invitation and we are debating what to do.
Yeah, we'd love to go. The main thing is we need to know whether or not we are each other's plus ones or if we can each bring our significant others.
We will send a present either way.
Yes, yeah, we'll more than happily send a present.
Yes.
But
I'm sure the two of us are at least invited.
Yeah.
We need to know for sure.
Yeah, because we don't want to like burden your wedding.
Yeah, that'd be rude.
Yeah. I mean, we can, we'll happily pay for our own travel. But
yeah,
if you guys want to just invite us to your weddings, we'll probably show up.
Potentially.
We may just become the wedding crashers of YouTube, which would be absolutely hilarious.
I'll give a toast.
Yeah.
I'll make it up on the spot.
Yes. But he
won't mentioning uncles that don't exist.
He won't say who he is other than he's a distant cousin that you've like had a very fond relationship with forever, but just not very publicly.
Yeah, of course.
Then he might say something vaguely charged to really bring questions.
Yeah, bring it home,
Yeah. Incredible.
This is to say, invite us to your wedding at your own peril.
Yeah. You're high risk, high reward scenario, and there's no reward.
I'll be flipping a coin about whether or not I get hammered.
It's a double-sided, like, heads coin.
Yeah, oh yeah. I will get hammered. I'm going to call it when it lands.
Yeah, exactly.
I see it.
You call it like you see it. Please tell me you got that reference.
Vaguely, I think. I have a headache.
I just call it like I see it. Think 2012. Think presidential election.
Huh?
Think governor of Alaska.
Sarah Palin? That was a Palin reference?
Yeah, it was. That was a Palin reference in the year of our Lord 2025.
Entirely too deep cut for me.
Yeah. The Castman777 for $5 says, my schizo theory on why they are found in the water without decomposition is that they were kidnapped by CIA reptilians and sacrificed to Satan. Thoughts?
I was with you for like the first 6 words. Once we got to CIA reptilians, I have to be honest, I'm skeptical. I'm willing to believe.
I want to believe. I need you to read this one. Not aloud. I just need you to read it. The highlighted one.
Greg, why?
It's just... Are you speaking from experience, bud? I hope not. Anyway, Megan Thomas for $19.99 says, knowing that Chris has hit Sebastian with the belt more than once, what are the chances that Sebastian's autism comes with meltdowns which led to beating that went too far?
Oh, no,
resulting in him disappearing.
Known fact that he had a chromosomal condition that caused meltdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, like known fact. That's a thing.
And specifically, want to note that, in relation to that being chromosomal, that wasn't a nurture thing.
No, that was a chromosomal issue.
Yeah,
that was not
biological.
autism. That was not nurture. He had a legitimate problem.
Yeah. Anyway, Chimp with a Hand Grenade is back at it again for $10, saying, could you guys please look into this missing Long Island teen, Emre Gervaisi, 14 years old, found on boat nearly a month after disappearing. I posted links in the tip line.
Yeah, it's in the tip line. If there's something you want us to cover, that is the best possible place you can put it. In our Discord, bit.ly/join-the-lodge, the tip line channel, that is the best place to put stuff because I can go right there and I can look at it. You can post sources. You guys can have discussions. And there have been a few cases where I've been like, hey guys, I need help. And that's where I go.
Investigative work.
Yeah.
Asmodeus for $5 is saying, love the content ye fair maidens create. These videos are my favorite thing to listen to while I work, and I'm currently rewatching The Weird Bible.
Thank you. I'm glad you're watching it. That's a fun one. That's coming back.
It is.
The last Thursday of the month. It will be back.
I'm not sure what Rabid Space, who's been a member for 2 months, is saying or in reference to here, but he's saying, as a Hoosier, I take that comment personal, Mattis.
I believe that is Indiana's. Something to do with Indiana. The Hoosiers.
Oh, I was under the impression that Hoosiers was a term for Canadian.
I think it's Hoser.
There's,
which is not to be confused with Hosier,
the Irish
recording artist.
Yeah. There's way too many words for people that are that similar.
Listen, you don't have to take it personally. Just beat Ohio State. You
Fair.
have one job. Also, say goodbye to SEC supremacy. Can we discuss the fact that like every SEC team in the college football playoff got blown out? For years I've been having to listen to my cousin. Oh, Bama's so great. Bama's so good. The SEC is the best. Well, your time has come to an end, Nick. Big Ten supremacy time. Also, official petition, because the Big Ten has too many teams. It does not have 10 anymore. It has a lot more than that. I think we kick USC out because they shouldn't have been here in the first place, as they proved this year. I don't know if you saw it. They did not do well. USC is not a Big Ten team. They don't belong here. Kick them out, rename it to the Big North.
I like it.
Big North.
Big North.
It's big, it's North. It makes sense.
Well, because there's nobody in the central area, right? Like, there's not a unification of teams in, like, the Montana to Illinois area, is there?
I don't know.
Because
not that are particularly important.
I was going to say, you got the SEC, you got Pac-12,
got
which
Big Ten.
Was Pac-10, but
yeah.
And then you got...
That's the thing is the Big Ten is now like East Coast to West Coast. It goes all the way across.
Oh, really?
Oregon's in the Big Ten.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so perfect. So it is the whole North.
It's the Big North.
Big North. I'm all in. Also, Asmodeus is telling us, please don't forget to give Wendigoon his signed sexy calendar if we haven't done it yet.
Oh, of course. I'm going to send him that, and I'm also going to send him a copy of Ars Geisha because he hates it.
Oh, fair. James Himsbor for $10 saying, mighty out of the loop here, but what is the Montana trip you mentioned?
Oh, we are going to Yellowstone for 2 weeks to lead 2 sightseeing tours. We will not be the tour guides. We will simply be along for the ride, talking about local lore and history while the tour guide does tour guide stuff. They are going to be camping trips. These are both already sold out, but they sold out so immensely quickly that we will be doing more of them. I probably going to have a few planned out for 2026. I don't know about the rest of 2025. If there's something we can do in the winter, like fall or winter of 2025, we'll probably do it. But for now, it's just 2 Yellowstone trips. But we went to Alaska over this summer. We're going to Yellowstone next summer, hoping to hit national parks every year.
Let's just cover like a Jamaican missing persons case in like November, just to take the trip down.
Australia, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I want to go to Australia so badly,
dude. If there was a Trova trip tour that we could just go do the Lord of the Rings stuff in New Zealand.
Yes.
Oh, I'd be so on it. Granted, I would probably have to take so many sedatives to get on that plane.
Yeah.
I do not like flying.
You'd be fine.
After an entire bottle of Xanax, yeah, I'd be fine.
Incredible. Ella said, local hole in the wall is greater than a gas chain station.
Well, I mean, yeah. I would agree with that. I'm confused.
I don't know.
I'd say most local hole-in-the-wall places are probably better food than a gas station.
Generally.
Wawa's not good because it's a gas station. Wawa is good because why does a gas station have food that good?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it really is about.
It's not that Wawa is great. It's that Wawa is great for a gas station.
Holden Karens for 545 says, to hell with Wawa. It's about them Shell gas station chicken strips and tater wedges here in the South. All I can say is,
so sorry for you.
If we're not, let's be fair, if we're not in Pennsylvania, I'm hoping I'm finding a Conoco station.
No idea what that is.
Conoco station?
I gotta say, I am scared of Buc-ee's.
What?
I did not handle Buc-ee's well.
What do you mean?
There was too much going on.
It's basically just big Wawa.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's big Wawa. They're yelling about meat.
Oh, it's such good meat, though.
Yeah, but like every 30 seconds, somebody's yelling like, meat's up. And then the rest of them are like, meat's up. I felt very out of place.
I don't know.
You know the clip of Trump from the one rally where they turned the lights on really bright and he's like, turn them off. That's how I felt at Buc-ee's.
Got it.
Yeah, I did not have a good time. There was entirely too much going on at Buc-ee's.
There is a lot going. It's like a weird combination of a Wawa and a Wegmans.
Yeah, they're bringing them up further north too. I don't know if you saw. They're opening 2 in Virginia.
Yep.
Wawa needs to hold the line. We cannot allow Buc-ee's to enter Pennsylvania.
I'd be cool with it.
This is see. That's what a lot of people said about the Confederacy, but no.
Yeah, but the Confederacy didn't bring good barbecue. They just had bad political ideology.
I would bargain they probably had good barbecue too.
No, because
was barbecue not a thing yet?
No, it's because all the people with good barbecue were enslaved by them.
Yeah, that's probably not. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Moving swiftly.
I still don't want Buc-ee's. Yeah. Keep Buc-ee's out of my state. Stay below the Mason-Dixon, you bastards.
Ellen the Howler Werewolf Queen gave us $50 more of PTSD money.
Wow, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Maybe I'll finally go to therapy.
Lisa B. Always for $2 is saying, have you seen the 3 a.m. video from the Sebastian case?
If you mean the one that appears to be a vehicle of some kind outside, then yes. Or if you're talking about the supposed flashlights. But if there's another video, I may be unaware of it. If this is a more recent development.
Dopamine Farmer for Canadian $6.99 is saying, hey, I've asked before, but still interested. Can you please look into the Lisa Kearns who disappeared on Mount Rainier?
Lisa Kearns, Mount Rainier.
Considering we did a whole video on Mount Rainier, I'm surprised that wouldn't have been a part of it, unless this is a more recent thing.
Well, let's see. Oh, wait.
Oh.
I found a Sheila Kearns. Is that who we're talking about here? Sheila Kearns?
This one says Lisa. Also, the Dr. Tyrese class was a deep cut reference from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh.
The quote
it's been a while since I've seen the movie.
Yeah, the quote is, archaeology is the search for fact, not truth. If it's truth you're interested in, Dr. Tyree's philosophy class is right down the hall. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Classic movie, classic line.
I got to go back and rewatch those movies. Amanda's never seen them.
We just did the rewatch of the original trilogy with Kat, and she did not dig Raiders.
Really?
She was lukewarm on it. She was like, "This is fine. This is entertaining." Didn't love Temple of Doom.
That's fair.
And then
definitely the weakest of the trilogy.
And then after, literally right as they were riding into the sunset of Crusade, she was like, I understand why people watch this trilogy now, because that movie was phenomenal.
Oh, Lost Crusade. Oh.
Yeah. She was like, to get to this movie, I would sit through the other two just to watch this movie because it really is that good.
Yeah. And that opening sequence with River Phoenix.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm so sad we never got the Young Indy series.
Yeah.
That we were supposed to get. Also, this might be a hot take. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is not the worst of the 4 movies.
Could not agree more.
I did say 4.
I know. I still haven't seen the new one.
What new one?
The game. The game that just came out. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think Temple of Doom is the weakest.
Look,
I think that Crystal Skull is the second weakest.
I think the only reason Crystal Skull got as much hate as it did is because it is one of the two that did not focus on an overtly Christian thing and a largely Christian nation, and
probably
it came out at the time where the internet existed, and so people could nitpick it apart to death.
Yeah, you couldn't do that in the 70s,
no,
80s. No.
So, there is nothing.
Shia LaBeouf was great.
I loved him in that movie. But here's the thing. Surviving a nuke in a lead-line refrigerator is not the most silly thing that happened in that franchise.
No, it is not.
By a long shot.
I mean, considering that in Temple of Doom, they jump out of an airplane in an inflatable life raft, which, why was that in the plane?
They also rip a man's heart out.
Right, as he's screaming.
Yes.
I kind of feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark had the same, there was probably somebody there to go, George. No. George. I gotta say, I'm impressed that Harrison Ford has worked with George Lucas as much as he did, because the man hates George's writing.
Yeah.
He cannot stand George Lucas's writing.
He recognized the talent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the vision is there.
Yeah.
The writing is not.
Yeah, and what's nothing that crazy.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. Not like you. You're soft and smooth.
You forgot a word.
What was the one?
Coarse, rough, irritating.
Oh, I forgot irritating.
It's everywhere. I hate that we know that line as well as we do.
Classic film.
This is what happens when you're raised on the prequels, and I stand by the fact that Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time.
It's my favorite. I do not think it's the best.
Agreed.
I think it's the second best.
Yeah. Second best, but my favorite.
Also, I gotta say, I think Rogue One is top 5.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Also, Solo. Way too much hate for Solo.
Still haven't seen it.
We'll have to watch. We should downstairs.
Yeah.
We have a 70-inch TV now.
Thank you, Christian.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a good deal. All right, let's get through the rest of these before Jules yells at us. Brent Helfin for $20 says, are you guys still interested in the Casper, Wyoming disappearances? If so, I recommend looking into the Christy Richardson disappearance and the self-delete of Mick McMurray. 2 millionaires end up dead after an alleged affair. It's weird.
I'll be honest, I had kind of forgotten about Casper, but now I'm definitely going to go back and look at Casper.
Yeah.
Because I'll be real with you guys, I'm not sure we're going to have another missing 411 cluster after Pennsylvania.
Really?
I mean, I think we've gotten to the bottom of it.
I mean, yeah.
Like, it depends. If the rest of the cases in the book are as weak, like the Great Smokies cases were actually fairly strong.
Yeah.
Most of them were pretty weird. It took me a while to figure out what probably happened.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania so far, it's been a lot of this was either criminal or this is not weird. We'll see. There were a couple that I remember being like, okay.
Would you want to go through them all even if we did multiple ones per episode?
That might be what we do. It might be like the Ohio cluster is one video.
Yeah.
The New York cluster is one video.
The main reason I'm thinking about that is because to be able to do a missing 411 meta-analysis, so if it's like we investigated every missing 411 case, and then to be able to lay it all out of like which ones are weird, which ones aren't, why, and then what the meta hypothesis of all of it would be. It'd be kind of cool to have the most put together,
it would be,
and thorough missing 411 video on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely consider doing that. It's just a matter of like, I don't think we'll see another series like Great Smokies.
Fair. And then Miss Maury's saying, I would invite you guys to my family reunion / wedding just to record you and my dad talking about religion and history while drunk. Yeah, that could be a podcast.
That could be fun, yeah.
Own.
Drunk theology.
Yeah, that's basically...
Terrible idea.
It could be fun. Gom for $5 says,
Divine... The Catholics already don't like me enough.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm your resident Catholic. It'll be fine.
You're not really Catholic.
Once a Catholic, always a Catholic.
Oh my God.
When you're born Catholic, that guilt stays with you, sir. You can't escape it.
Okay.
Everything you've ever done wrong, you think about once a day.
Dude, I've had so many negative interactions with Catholics on Twitter over the last several days because they all they're just like, you can't be a Christian, you're a Freemason. And then I try to explain it, and it's like, well, the Pope said so.
All I can say is if you ever want to be reminded as to why not all Catholics are bad, remember our new friend in town.
I know.
Yeah, Gom was saying divine intervention protected us from the medallion. He'll have to give it to us at Blobfest. I think they both got porch pirated, but I'll have to hand deliver.
I don't think they even got porch pirated. I don't think they got here.
Yeah. I mean, hand deliver sounds like the safest at this point.
Yeah, but like, we've had bigger packages than that sitting out on the porch, and here's the thing: where we are in town is on camera.
Yeah, like everywhere.
So
we have several businesses that we know have cameras facing outside, and our building has cameras facing outside. So.
Yeah. We'd know if somebody stole something.
Yeah.
Does it have like cobalt in it? Is the Postal Service not delivering it?
Asmodeus for $5 says, funny that you mentioned
Asmodeus.
Asmodeus, sorry. The Ars Goetia?
Ars Geisha.
Ars Geisha. I just got the Lesser and the Greater Keys of Solomon because I was curious and I'm excited to read them.
Yeah. It's related. Lesser Key of Solomon is what
it's all just things that'll make Wendigoon mad.
Oh, yeah, no.
Holden Karen says the South will rise. No, it won't.
Not if I have anything to do with it. Way down south in the land of traitors, rattlesnakes and alligators. Come away. Come away.
We have a lot of Southern friends, but we enjoy clowning them for losing.
Take the elbows-o.
We may be Yankees, but we're proud Yankees.
What's the what was our symbol again? It was the
Lore Lodge.
Lore Lodge.
Yeah, we came up with that on the fly in
our
Alaska,
gang sign.
I think. Yeah.
Lore Lodge.
Watch, we're gonna get shot now for doing that.
Well, that's why I keep the strap on me.
There you go. It's important.
Two in this room.
Koala hairspray for Canadian 556 said that sounds like an oxymoron. Canadian 556.
Yeah.
Says
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Says, hey guys, your video keep me awake during 4-hour drives to Saskatoon and then back. Keep up the good work.
I love that there is a city in Canada called Saskatoon.
It's so good. Also, I hope those drives are during the day so you're not worried about falling asleep. But at the very least, we're glad that we can utilize our chaos to keep your eyes on the road and your mind focused on the drive.
That is very important because if you get lost, the RCMP will not find you.
Yeah.
We might.
Somehow. But
the RCMP will not.
No. Can't rely on them.
Oh, well, guess you went off the road, eh?
It's nice knowing you, bud. And then Dopamine Farmer was saying it is Sheila Kearns. A friend that told them said it was Lisa.
All right, that's an understandable mistake.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, that one actually looks pretty interesting. So I might have to take a look at that one. There was the Evelyn somebody that we also have to take a look at from the show last week that somebody mentioned.
T Randall Photo for $5 says, just got the photo order put in. Want tracking, send somewhere, friends? lorelodge@gmail.com is probably the best place to put that. Also comes with an explanation of the photos. One is number 40 in a set, and the other is a one-off.
Awesome.
Sweet. William Martin for $9.99 says, heard you mention him a few times. It's a relatively local case for me. Ever think about doing a video on Deorra Kunz? And yes, I know you do.
Yes, that is going to be in there. I was kind of waiting to get to it in the Missing 411 cluster series. We'll see if I still stick to the series format in that way, but it is definitely one that I want to cover because I'm genuinely curious how David came to the conclusion that it was mysterious based on what I've seen.
Fair.
Because it seems like just about everyone appears to agree that his parents had something to do with it. So,
fair. Keldfire for $5 says, Crystal Skull was bad because it was the movie version of a pick-me. The constant callback jokes cheapened the movie.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I don't remember that many callbacks.
I remember there being a few here and there. I don't know. It felt what it was to me is it was just good. It was fun.
I enjoyed the grab the rope segment.
Yeah,
like that was fun.
The fight that Shia LaBeouf gets into that causes an entire bar fight between jocks and socias.
So good.
Yeah, like it feels like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I also love like classic indie bad guys. What was the one? Oh yeah, love the little lore drop of him like having worked with the government. During like the whole Roswell thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's cool. That's like a really fun little tidbit to throw in there.
And the Russians were just over the top enough.
Yeah. Yeah. You can never be as good of a villain as a Nazi, but
Soviet gets close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. And then the last one.
Speaking of which, I am almost all the way through Man in the High Castle, and it is incredible how the writers thought the audience needed Nazism bad to be explained so much that they have written off any sympathetic characters outside of like one Nazi guy. Like the only reason I'm still watching the show is to figure out what happens to John Smith.
Wow.
Like I'm like, you have created a situation here in which you have gotten rid of all of the good characters.
Yep.
Everybody that I cared about is gone. The only person in this show that I care about is now a Nazi. Good job, guys. Like, I'm just hoping for his redemption arc. I'm waiting for it. And if I don't get it, I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
They also shoehorn in, like, for the first 3 seasons, there's no mention of this group, but there's they bring in the Black Communist Rebellion, which I don't know if that's in the book. I haven't read Man in the High Castle. I plan to now, but and maybe we can do a video on why the book is better than the movie, because Philip K. Dick is a remarkable author.
That'd be fun.
But for the first 3 seasons, there's a resistance. There's the East and West Coast resistance. There's black people. There's white people. There's Asian people. Like, it's all multicultural. They're all fighting for freedom. Also, in one scene, they do the Lord's Prayer, but they do, "Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts which we are about to bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts which we are about to receive from thy bounty through our Lord God, amen." And I was like, that is not the prayer. Why are you going to put a Christian prayer in the show and then take Christ out of it? That's weird. Why'd you do that? But yeah, so anyway, for the first 3 seasons, the resistance is there's the East Coast and the West Coast resistance. They kind of work together, and it's great. There's clearly danger. They don't win every single time. Some of the Nazi characters, like, some of them look like they're going to turn good. Some look like they're on the right track, and then they go bad. Like, it's the intrigue is there. There's no ambiguity that the Nazis are obviously the bad guys, but there are Nazi characters who, like, you're like, oh, so they're beginning to see through the veil.
Yeah. They're characters that these are good people caught up in bad circumstances.
Yes, exactly. It's like, if and one of the things is, John Smith was an American soldier, and then he becomes the Obergruppenführer for, like, a large section of the East Coast of the United States. And then he starts to see the cracks. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is going really interesting places. We're exploring psychology and brainwashing and cognitive dissonance, all these really intriguing concepts. And it's like they just fired the entire writing staff in season 3 and hired Marvel people. And season 3, the writing declines a lot. The story's still kind of okay. Season 4, after having this resistance that you've been building up for 3 seasons, suddenly, in one episode, they basically get wiped out. And they introduce the Black Communist Rebellion that has not been mentioned once in the 3 preceding seasons. Like, also, like, the Japanese also have racial laws. Like, what's going on here? There's no precedent for this in the television program. And the problem there is, like, yeah, I could get behind a group of African-American rebels who have banded together because they're from a racist time period. So obviously they're not going to trust white people. That makes sense. Okay, they're going to band together. But then you made them communist. I could have rooted for the black nationalist rebels who just want a place of their own where they won't be subjected to persecution and oppression. I could have rooted for that. And then you made them communists. When the resistance the entire time has been, we need to return to good American freedom. And now you've got these resistance people working with the communists, and you're like, what are you doing here? And none of it even makes sense. Like, there was no build-up of the story. They didn't introduce this a season ago. It's just suddenly all the people you cared about, they're either irrelevant or dead. Here's the new good guys. We're not going to actually explain their story to you. We're not going to make any of the characters sympathetic. They're actually all a little racist. You have to like them. I'm like, dude, just put me out of my misery. End the show. Anyway, that's my Man in the High Castle rant.
I'd always wondered about the show, and I feel like there's a reason I hadn't heard a lot about it.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's really good if you just consider the first 2 seasons, the entire show. If you consider the season 2 finale, the end, it's great. It's like, okay, I can have hope for the future. The Nazis are going to crumble. The Imperial Japanese are looking like they're probably not going to maintain their hold. They're nice. And then they just butcher it. Also, they're like, the Nazis are going to go off and they're going to go through the portal and conquer all the other worlds in the multiverse. And it's like, the portal is in a mine shaft in Lackawanna, Pennsylvania. What are they going to do? March all of their soldiers out of a mine in Lackawanna? That's the plan? What? like into our world. I think the government can handle closing a mine shaft.
We should do a video on how many people in America were Nazis in the 1930s.
There was a remarkable amount.
That's the thing. I did not know that until I saw the PBS documentary like a few months back. It was shocking.
Oh, they filled up Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a large number of Nazis and communists.
Yeah, I think people don't remember that or don't recognize how prevalent it was.
We haven't been totally truthful about our history.
What do you mean?
In schools.
Oh, no, not at all. Which is why I think we should cover it.
Yeah, I mean, I find it a little ironic that we had our own concentration camps and that just gets glossed over.
Yeah, some people like vaguely talk about that, but I feel like there's a lot of people who just really don't acknowledge
FDR was not a good guy. FDR was a very bad person.
But the Green New Deal.
That's AOC. You're thinking about the New Deal.
Oh,
FDR
yeah. FDR
did give us some nice national parks. I'll give him that.
Yep. All right, we got one more from Tim's Odds and Ends for $2 saying that he's watching us while recovering from surgery.
Oh, boy.
Well,
good luck.
Yeah, hopefully it's going well. Gomb saying, can you look into the cult of Gomb?
Sure.
If there's information out there, we'll find it. And then Alex...
Or I'll invent it.
Could be fun. And then Alex Corp for $4.99 says, come fight the demon in The Exorcist in St. Louis. Cowards, then come see the worst national park in the U.S., the Arch? I didn't know that was a national park.
I did not know that the Arch was a national park.
That is shocking. And
I'll come to the Exorcist house. I'll tell a demon to suck my nuts.
What's it gonna do?
Worst case scenario, it sucks them.
We have to end the show.
I'm not afraid of demons.
You're not afraid of... yeah.
What's it gonna do, Aiden? Possess me? I will simply say no.
All right. We have
to wash my car.
There you go. Now we're getting you on the right track. I was going to say we're going to have a conversation with Wendigoon for next Weird Bible. I need you to bring that up and see how he reacts. He may never come back. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by. If we don't end soon, then we're not going to be able to use this show for clips, and our social media manager is going to get mad at us.
Yeah.
Which is, rightful, understandable.
That's fair.
But thank you so much for coming by. We hope you enjoyed this show. Thank you to everybody who gave us super chats tonight. You keep this lodge rolling, which I know is a bit of an oxymoron, because lodges should generally stay on their foundation stationary. But
Howl's Rolling Lodge.
We keep moving. We just keep going.
I think we're both very tired and I have a headache too.
Yeah, 100%. Check out this week's video on JonBenet Ramsey. We're finishing part 4. There will be many more parts after this, considering how many days did you get through in the investigation this time?
2. Like 2. Maybe 3. I'm not totally sure when one of the interviews happened.
It's not his fault. It's just a really, really convoluted story.
A lot happened. 90% of the work has been putting everything in the proper order.
It's amazing how many people got things half right.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to make fun of John Douglas so hard. The guy who wrote Mindhunter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to read Mindhunter just so I can make fun of John Douglas even harder.
Really? Why?
Because he sat across from John Ramsey and watched the man lie to his face and was like, I don't think he did it.
Didn't he, get...
There are multiple chapters of John Douglas's book that, directly apply to the case. Especially the staging stuff. And then also... Look at me. John Ramsey had a copy of Mindhunter. The police were like, hey, what's up with this? And he went, oh, I don't know. I've never read it. And the DA just was like, well, he's never read it. Anyway, gotta go so our social media manager doesn't get angry.
Oh, I love this JonBenet journey. It's such a horrible case, and the fact that it ever happened is terrible. But just watching you do the investigation and give the presentations, and then
upset.
Editing them and finding all of the stuff that I find,
I'm so upset.
Yeah, it's. I can't wait for this meta-analysis video. Let me tell you, boys and girls.
I will admit this is the first one where I've just directly said the Ramseys are full of shit.
Yeah.
So, have fun. Have fun with that.
Yeah. Tell us why. Why have you been neutral up until now?
The Ramseys hadn't opened their mouths much.
And now?
Well, they went on CNN and they opened their mouths entirely too much. Like, for all of those times that their lawyers were like, don't talk to the cops, absolutely don't talk to the cops, they let them go on CNN? And then they just proceeded to lie over and over again.
Now, how are you confirming the lies?
Police reports, their own statements, witness statements. I mean, the thing is, most of the stuff they lied about, only the police knew at the time. So nobody noticed they were lying, except the cops. My favorite part is that they got on CNN and they were like, as soon as we get back to Boulder, we will be happy to speak to the police and sit down and talk to them. They waited 4 more months. The best part? The Boulder detectives landed in Atlanta that afternoon and had informed the Ramseys they were coming. If the Ramseys really wanted to cooperate with the Boulder detectives, they could have just stayed put. Instead, they ran off to the they left so fast that Boulder had to reach out to the Telluride Police Department and ask if they could go check and see if the Ramseys were at one guy's ski house.
God, I love this story.
Also, I mean, there's the fact that John Ramsey and his lawyers and the DA's office, like a whole bunch of different people had business connections with each other and they were partners. It's the most obvious corruption case in history, and nobody seems to accept that because of one little DNA sample. Pesky little DNA sample.
Which we're hoping to get an answer to.
Hoping to get an answer on that one. But all right, thank you guys very much for watching. New video coming this Friday is JonBenet Ramsey Part 4. And then tomorrow, the first clip from History Unhinged drops on that channel. Bye, guys.